Welcome to The Explainer. For years, whenever we talked about the AI landscape in Africa, it was almost always framed around abstract ambition, like what could be, what should be, maybe what might happen down the line. But looking at the sheer volume of data dropping this week, yeah, that era of speculation is officially over. We are watching a rapid, real-time transformation where those theoretical strategies are suddenly turning into poured concrete and binding legal realities.
Okay, let's dive right into this because this quote perfectly captures the gravity of what we're looking at today. We are not talking about minor, incremental updates here. We are seeing massive, structural shifts. Long-term plans are quite literally materializing into physical data centers right now. Complex regulatory frameworks are clashing out in the open, and geopolitical chess moves are officially locking into place. The pieces have absolutely started arriving, and honestly, the board is never going to look the same.
So to make sense of all this, we're taking a continental tour. We're going to hit 1. Africa's AI inflection point. 2. Nigeria's AI enforcement clash. 3. South Africa's policy shift. 4. The North African infrasurge. And we'll wrap up with 5. The minerals for compute play.
Section 1. Africa's AI inflection point. In exactly 72 hours, Nigeria's Senate Committee on ICT is convening what might just be the most consequential AI governance session in African legislative history. We're mere days away from decisions that will essentially become the blueprint for AI governance across West Africa for the next decade. And the wildest part about this upcoming session isn't even the legislation itself. It's the completely unprecedented, very public conflict leading up to it. Section 2. Nigeria's AI enforcement clash. And this brilliantly illustrates the clash happening right at the heart of the Nigerian Senate hearings. We are getting a fully transparent look at the structural incentives pulling the country's top regulatory bodies in opposite directions. It's not a debate about whether AI is good or bad, but how you actually enforce the rules. For the first time, two massive regulatory agencies have taken publicly incompatible stances. On one hand, you have NIDA. They're pushing hard for a self-certification model. Why? Because they want to optimize for speed. They want startup formation velocity so compliance costs don't accidentally price young Nigerian innovators right out of the market. But then, on the other hand, you have the NDPC. They are demanding mandatory, independent, third-party audits. Their whole mandate is citizen protection. And they're arguing that self-certification just doesn't cut it when you're dealing with high-stakes deployments like finance, healthcare, or elections. So the Senate is stuck having to choose between two entirely coherent, yet totally conflicting philosophies.
But wait, here's where it gets really fascinating. There's this third-order consequence popping up. A coalition of 14 civil society groups, led by Paradigm Initiative, just dropped a completely novel third option on the table, an incident reporting registry. Think of it as a baseline, citizen-facing system designed to continuously track actual, empirical AI harms in the real world, regardless of which audit system the government picks. If the Senate actually adopts this, it would be the first of its kind in Africa. It would fundamentally shift the liability calculus for anyone launching an AI product in Nigeria simply by forcing real, continuous transparency.
Section 3. South Africa's policy shift. Now, what's really interesting about this is while Nigeria is hashing out how to enforce the rules, let's look further south. South Africa is in the final stretch of drafting its own AI Act, with just 22 days left in their public comment window. Civil society is making a very late but absolutely crucial entrance into this process. Just look at the massive skew here. Out of 73 total submissions, an incredible 61 are coming from institutional tech or financial entities. Just 12 are from civil society and other groups. Because of that heavy financial presence, the input shaping South Africa's AI policy is overwhelmingly hyper-focused on financial risk, which honestly risks narrowing the entire scope of the regulatory framework.
However, the good news is that gap is finally starting to close. In just a tight 5-day window, 3 incredibly crucial new submissions arrived from totally outside the finance bubble. We've now got Agri-SA weighing in on how AI liability impacts automated crop insurance for smallholder farmers. The South African Medical Association is raising flags about accountability in primary healthcare diagnostics. And the Equal Education Law Center? They're tackling automated assessments in state schools. These 3 fresh submissions are finally forcing the policy drafters to look at the highest impact AI deployments, the ones affecting the biggest chunks of the population, and it directly challenges the financial sector's monopoly over the rulebook. Section 4. The North African infrasurge.
All right, having looked at the legal battles in West and South Africa, let's pivot our tour sharply north.
We are looking at a monumental shift in capital and physical hardware that is literally going to rewrite every single AI infrastructure chart from the last 2 years. The numbers here are just wild. Egypt just announced an $800 million Phase 1 commitment to build a sovereign national AI computing center. Backed by a likely Gulf Sovereign Wealth Fund co-investor, this facility is going to house 64,000 GPU-equivalent units at full build-out. To put that into perspective for you, that is enough compute power to become the largest announced AI concentration on the African continent by a factor of 3.
So, what does this all mean for us? The big takeaway here is that treating Africa as one single, homogeneous AI market is totally missing the point now. We're actually looking at two completely distinct geopolitical and capital arcs. The sub-Saharan arc is driven by hyperscaler capital. They want near-term returns. But this newly cemented North African arc, anchored by Egypt, is fueled by sovereign wealth capital. That money operates on a super patient 10 to 15-year return horizon and naturally connects to latency partners over in Europe and the Arab world.
So the crucial point is, does the local ecosystem actually have the capacity to match all this massive infrastructure? This is the contrarian pivot. While the concrete is literally being poured for a 64,000 GPU center, Egypt only has 34 Crunchbase listed AI startups right now. Compare that to 89 in Kenya or 147 in Nigeria. This highlights a very real risk, right? It's an infrastructure-first strategy where the hardware shows up, but the local talent and startup ecosystem might just lack the immediate depth to absorb that gigantic influx of compute power. Essentially, it's a 2-year race to build an ecosystem that can actually match the hardware.
Section 5. The minerals for compute play.
Let's move to and see how this builds step by step, because this next part is where the foundation of all AI hardware actually originates. We are stepping far away from the legislative chambers and data centers and straight into the high-stakes world of resource diplomacy. In early May, the Democratic Republic of Congo issued a strategic brief to global powers regarding its coltan and cobalt, literally the minerals you need to build AI chips. Then, just days later, South Korea formally accepted an invitation for a dialogue explicitly focused on AI hardware supply chain continuity. The DRC brilliantly played its hand, leveraging its natural resources to flip from a passive exporter into an active, high-level diplomatic player. And that all leads to a massive preliminary session in Seoul scheduled for June 9th. Which leaves us with this provocative question as we wrap up today's explainer. Will this minerals for infrastructure swap become the new template for the global AI supply chain? I mean, think about it. If South Korea actually offers digital infrastructure investment in exchange for preferred access to those minerals at that June 9th meeting, it sets a definitive reference price for the entire world. It could completely change exactly how resource-rich nations fund their AI futures from here on out. The pieces are absolutely arriving, and the stakes? Well, they've literally never been higher. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for this explainer. Definitely keep your eyes on these incredible developments and keep learning.